Hi everyone, this is Cate. Thanks Jackie from Awakening Together for introducing us and for everything you do. So today I thought I might do my talk, an hour's talk on special relationships as A Course in Miracles describe them. So I've got some really lovely paragraphs that were picked out by a friend of mine who I run a weekly online Course in Miracles non-duality group where we all get together and share from the Course and have topics and share and talk about it. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. And we had a meeting on special relationships a few weeks ago, and one of the guys that's on the group had picked out some really good sections of the Course, and so he posted them up on our private Facebook page, and I've got them here too. Thought they're so wonderful. I'd like to do a talk on them. So first of all, I'll just invite the Holy Spirit in to the talk and just allow our minds to settle so that they're quiet. And it means that in one of the lessons, Jesus asks us just to sink below the thoughts. So he's always actually asking us to quieten our mind, meditate, but he may not use those words, but he's really pointing to that quiet mind. So we can just allow your body to get relaxed and close your eyes and just allow your hands to rest and let the fingers relax. Let your toes relax. Feel your shoulders just gently relax in, relax down. And your lips, the muscles in your face, just let them restore all the tension, just everything rest. Holy Spirit, you are the right mind. You are all that is. You are every bit of wisdom in our awareness. You can see our misperceptions. You can see all our ego mind. Even though you don't believe in it, you know that we are believing in it. And you are here to gently help us see our misperceptions and show us something different. And all we need to do is be willing to bring every upset, every grievance, anything that we have in our minds. We just need that little willingness to do the forgiveness. You tell me my function is forgiveness. Forgiveness is bringing all my upsets to the Holy Spirit. Their forgiveness is bringing everything that I am fearful about or judging any tiny little thing, forgiveness is bringing it to the Holy Spirit in my mind. It's allowing the correction. And through that, I am accepting the atonement. The atonement means correction. The end result is the oneness, but I need to be, my mind needs to have its misperceptions corrected by the Holy Spirit, by the right mind, by the mind that knows the answer. So the Holy Spirit knows the answer. It has the answer ready for every single upset. And all I need to do is be willing to listen. And how I listen is I get quiet and I allow time. And I just allow it. I just get quiet. And I just ask, Holy Spirit, you have this upset. I don't want it anymore. Please help me see this differently. Above all else, I want to see this differently because I don't want to feel this pain, this suffering that I'm in. Amen. So, the Course in Miracles is a whole teaching that is set towards the egoic mind. It is talking, it is a teaching for the ego, not for the ego, to undo the ego. So the ego is the false self that we take ourselves to be, but we don't know. So it's like, say you've got a computer and it's got a virus in it, so it's a false operating system. And what happens is the computer or the false operating system doesn't know that it's a false operating system and it doesn't work properly. So it's having all sorts of problems. And it thinks that getting some add-ons to the false operating system is going to make it better. So it continually, just imagine that we've got a computer in our mind. So say our mind is exactly like a computer with this analogy. And the original operating system is still there. It's the Holy Spirit. It's clear, it's joyful, it's happy, and it doesn't have any fear. And a false operating system has been installed, but we are unaware of it. So it's out of an awareness. So we're running on a virus, but the true operating system is sitting behind it. So the false operating system, the virus, is running the show. And so what happens is that false operating system is what they call false evidence appearing real fear. So it's actually seeing false evidence of separation. So the evidence that it's finding seems to be real, but it's false. So how can we know what's false? And it is a difficult path to completely undo the egoic mind. It's not easy. I don't know anybody that on this journey has had an easy time of it. From my experience, I had a lot of fear coming in. And the ego goes from suspicious to vicious. So when it gets to viciousness, a lot of the time you think something's going really wrong when you're getting a lot of fear. And it's not actually when you start getting a lot of fear, that's when you know you're close, because the ego is ramping it up as you're getting close to the whole virus getting removed from your mind. So this virus seems real, and you don't know that the virus, so if you don't know, you know, if you had a computer and you're operating it and had a virus, you don't know if there's a virus in there. You're completely unaware. But all you know is the operating system's not working properly. So what you do is you try to change the virus. So we dabble around with the virus. We go and we do all sorts of things. We might even meditate to feel better. So when we're trying to do something to feel better, a new job, a new relationship, we're seeking to actually make the virus better somehow. But what's actually needs to be done is the whole mind, the whole virus, the whole egoic mind needs to be seen through. And that's what the Holy Spirit does, is each time we're upset, we only have to, in the moment, whenever we're upset, we just bring it to the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, you have this. I'm not feeling very good. I'll give this to you. I hand this over. I give it on, put it on the altar, and I ask, help me see this differently. It's very important to ask for help. And I say this every week, only because we need to be really aware. It's so easy to forget. So one of the things in A Course in Miracles, the teaching, they're called special relationships. And it is actually, even though it looks like it's part of the course, it's actually the whole course. But you can use, some Course in Miracles teachers talk about using your special relationships to wake up from the dream of separation. Your special relationships are everything. You've got a relationship with every single thing. And I think I've talked about this before, about, you know, every single thing. Your computer, you've got a special relationship with that, especially if it doesn't work properly. You'll see how your mind wants it to be different. And that's all a special relationship is just noticing how your mind. So what we do is, I'll just give you a bit of a summary of how I think about special relationships is, first of all, that you've got a special relationship with every single thing. This body that you take yourself to be, all the clothes that you put on the body, especially when there's thoughts around that you want to look a certain way and you don't want to look another way. Anything that you put a meaning on, which is basically everything. But one of the things the Course does is it points to excuse me, our special relationships with our closest people in this virtual reality world. And they're our way out. The dream has, you can't know that you're in a dream while you're getting upset. Just taking my scarf off because it's getting a bit warm here. Turn my heater down a little bit. It's winter here. Just listening to Jackie, she was sweltering in the heat. We're on the other side of the world. It's just, this is the dream world, or whatever's going on here. It's always on. You know, you don't have to try to get out of the world. You don't have to try to get away from the dream. All you need to do is see that this is a dream. Really, that's it. Once you see that this world can't affect you, you are free. Your mind's free. But anyway, let's get back to the special relationships. So the intimate relationships generally between your partner, so that relationship with, if you've got, you know, if you're gay, or if you're, you know, got a male or a female partner, that relationship is going to trigger anything that's the ego's hiding in your mind. So what happens with the course and how you can use these special relationships to wake up is that you make a commitment to, rather than looking at the other person as such and being in the relationship, most egos are in a relationship to get. Now, the ego is the mind that tells you you can get something out of that other person. So the ego is constantly seeking outside itself to get something. So that's a special relationship. So what happens is can be quite tolerant of people at work and parents and children. It still will get upset because it's a virus, and it's not going to bring you happiness at all. It will bring you moments of happiness, or what might seem to be happiness, but it's not true happiness. So what happens is, generally your really close relationships are the ones that you can really work with this. Now, there's a lot of debate in the course community about whether the other person in your intimate relationship needs to commit into this relationship as putting the Holy Spirit in charge. I have got no view on that. I would probably personally say that it's easier if your partner does commit, and even if they're not doing the Course in Miracles, they could, if they're just doing their own thing. But really, it's up to you. So you can use any relationship you've got to awaken. If you just need to commit into. Basically, the commitment is that I am not going to use this relationship to point my finger. So generally what happens in a normal egoic relationship, when we get upset, we point our finger out and we say, you upset me. And so what going from a special relationship to a holy relationship is, we turn the finger around and say, I upset myself. Okay, so that's the first thing, is we take everything back to our own mind, 100%. We have to be like, draw the line in the sand and say, okay, from now on, I'm going to use this relationship to undo my ego. I'm going to look within. So it's really about putting the Holy Spirit in charge. Now, you can, if you're in an intimate relationship with another mind, and the two of you commit into doing that, it's really beautiful. You can really see it in action. You'll see your partner. You won't know what your partner's going through because they won't be telling you about it generally. You'll just notice them. You'll get an idea sometimes that there might be an upset, but you'll never know because they are going within whenever they're getting upset with you. So what this relationship is you can sit down with your partner if they're open to it and say, are you okay to make our relationship holy, to put the Holy Spirit in charge? So you will be looking at your upsets and I will be looking at my upsets, and we put the Holy Spirit in charge. So that's one way of doing it. And I have done that with my partner, Kevin. We've been together in an online relationship for nearly 3 years. And we did that, I think, within the first 6 to 12 months. We decided to do that. So what he says in the course is as soon as you commit in to a relationship, both of you commit in, every bit of shit will come up. Because the ego hates that. It will get scared. So just get ready. Just make sure when you have this conversation that you are really aware that immediately you do that, something will go wrong in your relationship. Let me rephrase that. It won't go wrong in your relationship. Your ego will get massively triggered. And Jesus says the minute you commit into a holy relationship with someone, you will want to break up with them and find someone else. Because what's happening is you're bringing, the ego knows it's on its last legs, and it's just, so be mindful. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit something. You're going to hit all the fear in your mind about relationships. And everything that you're looking from your partner to get is going to be, it's going to come up, because what you've got to realise is you've had a conditioned mind for many, many years of this virus. This conditioning is, hang on, just turning my heater off. This conditioned mind, you've been living in it for a long, long time. So just be really very aware, because sometimes there can be this idea that, oh, the minute I commit into a holy relationship with my partner, it's just going to be all love and all fun and all happy. No, it's actually the total opposite. What you're going to find is, well, you only have to focus on your own mind, let your partner go through whatever they're going through, but you will find generally everything will come up. All the reasons why you want to leave that relationship will come up. Now, that's just for you to work with the Holy Spirit, however that comes up. Whether you leave that relationship or not is totally up to what you decide. Now, there's no right or wrong here. That's the thing, is that every person, every mind has their own curriculum. So, but he does say, if you can just hold on while all that stuff's coming up, telling you to leave the relationship, and this person's not this and they're not that, and because it's like a flood comes in, and it just basically, the ego is screaming at you to leave the relationship. And if you can just quieten your mind down and just get still and just persevere with it, because you've given it to the Holy Spirit and the ego's furious. So, and it's funny because I'm talking about the ego as if it has some life, and it is nothing, but it is a thought system. It's like a virus and it wants to keep itself, but it's nothing. in reality, but we believe it is. So we've got a whole thought system saying that so the conditioned egoic mind says that my partner can give me something. And what Jesus is saying is you cannot get anything from anyone. Zilch, you cannot get any love. It's impossible. That's why the ego is seek and do not find. It's 100% impossible to get love in this world, because these figures are you. They're aspects of your mind, and they're fragmented. So what we're actually living in is a fragmented egoic mind. So everything is in our minds. So this character that we're in a relationship with doesn't mean that you don't love. Like sometimes it's a little bit difficult to talk about this, because I don't want it to seem like, because some of the teachings they say there's no one out there, but the thing is that what that means is that everyone is in the mind. So the mind has reality, okay? So it's not that there's no one out there and, if I'm seeing people, I'm looking at something that's not there. What that points to is that they're in your mind. So there's a reality to them. That's why it says the kingdom of heaven is within you. So the kingdom of heaven is seeing all the characters here, all the lovely, beautiful Christs that are everywhere, seeing them. So some of these teachings get a bit misconstrued, and I've come across a lot of people that have confronted me about things I say. But once you get it, you'll see it in the course. It all makes sense. But I know on my journey I misconstrued a lot of things in the course, and that's okay. We all do that. It's very important to really get this clearly, is that what we're not denying that there's people, or that we're a body, or what we're living in. So when we look around and we're touching something and we're in a relationship with our intimate partner, every morning you wake up in your bed, the life is on. Life is on. It's just whether you're calling it the kingdom of heaven, or you're calling it a crap world that I don't want to go out into. That's the difference. Is the thing about it is that both those worlds are in your mind. So the world, that's why it says change your mind about the world and not try to change the world. So what we're coming to do is we're changing our mind back from its thought system, the virus that's actually overlaying. So there is a world. There's everything. In fact, what the world is everything is just this beautiful love. That's everything is made up of love, because it's all one. And so every part of it, but it's a mind that's seeing that. So that's why we have to go back in the mind. So when it took me ages when I kept reading, there's no one out there, I'm thinking that just doesn't make sense. And I asked the Holy Spirit, please illuminate what this means, because it looks like people are out there. But what it is that they're there, but they're in your mind. So we're all in a mind. So we're in either the ego's mind, or we're in the one mind of love. So what we do is we use these special relationships. So what happens is the teaching is centred, because we're in our ego mind, we're living in the virus. And so how we undo the virus is this is the way I truly believe, and it was highlighted to me how I use the course, is that every single upset is holding the sense of a separate self in your mind, which is the virus. So it's some aspect of your mind that you can't, so to hold an idea about me, that I'm a separate person here, and my partner is separate to me, I have to be upset with them. And so what happens in these very close, intimate relationships is that you might have done a lot of work on your upsets, but the minute you get into an intimate relationship, that person will show you everything that's still hiding in your mind on a very subtle level. And so it's really important to be very mindful that if you're in a relationship with someone and they're not on a spiritual path and they're not interested in it, you can still do this. It's just a little bit harder in a way, because if you're in a relationship with someone that's just not prepared to look at every time they're upset, go within and find it in their own mind, they'll be accusing you of doing this and saying you need to change and you need to do this, and when you did this to upset me, and there's, because the ego, that's what the ego does. So that does make it a bit harder. I'm lucky that the moment I committed into really going deeply in my mind to undo my ego, I was on my own for 2 years before I did go into this relationship with Kevin. But I did use every part of it. Now, when you're in an online relationship, you can't have any, so it was beautiful the way the Holy Spirit brought that relationship in, because you can't be with them. And so the ego says, I want to be with them in terms of bodies and, just being around them a lot. There's only certain times a day that we can communicate. But what happened was everything that arose in my mind, all these thoughts of lack, well, the ego is lack. So it's just a matter of just going within and finding the egoic thought. Just look at it, just welcome it. It's an opportunity for you to undo a part of your mind that's holding the self in place, this separate self. So this separate self, if you could look at it, it's like a ball or a brick wall. And say the brick wall, every brick is a belief or an upset or a judgment or a grievance. So the brick wall is the self. And the self is just created, and he says that in the course. There's a really great section, self versus self-concept, in chapter 31, section 5. That's a fantastic section that's telling you how you've made a self-concept. Now, the self is made up of these beliefs. Now, we can't see these beliefs. This is why it's so important we work with the Holy Spirit. I can't stress how important it is to bring everything to the Holy Spirit, because the right mind is there helping us. It wants to awaken us. It wants to help us see through these. He wants us to laugh at what we once thought was serious. This is part of, in the preface of the FIP edition, which is just in the section called What It Says. There's a section that talks about, this is what I think sums up special relationships really clearly. We love another in order to get something ourselves. That, in fact, is what passes for love in the dream world. There can be no greater mistake than that. For love is incapable of asking for anything. So that's what I want to centre my talk around today, is that we cannot, so true love it cannot ask anything of anyone. So how to use your special relationships to bring them into a holy relationship. So a holy relationship is, say for example, Kevin and I, we have undone a special relationship, but we are truly in a holy relationship now. But it did take time, and we both just, whenever we got upset, we both went within, we asked the Holy Spirit. Kevin does it, he's a different way of working with his upsets, but he did the same thing. So our relationship, very, very rarely did we ever talk to each other about anything the other did, because it was a commitment to any time we're upset, we just took it within and healed it in our own minds. So you know, a few times I might have said, oh, remember when, you know, you said this or you did this, my ego created this story and I went within and I saw this. And there was one stage where I think it was about a year or so after we'd met, I wanted, the ego, not me, the ego had a whole story about how it wanted Kevin to be more loving. And when I spoke to him on the phone or Skyped with him, there was this thoughts saying he needs to be speaking more lovingly to you. He needs to be telling you how much he loves you and cares about you and misses you and la 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 la. So now that would seem like a normal, isn't that just like your 100% egoic thing? Like the ego would say that it's normal, like, yeah, for sure, you want someone to say those things. And even that has to be looked at, because the Course in Miracles says you can't get anything from it. So what's happening with me? So what's happening in my mind? So you have to be very, very clear. So, I've got some thoughts around that. So I didn't act on them. I didn't go to Kevin and say, you need to be different. Once you commit into a holy relationship, you're committing into looking at your ego's thought system. So I went within and I said, okay, Holy Spirit, I give you this judgment that Kevin needs to be different. And I give it to you, and these thoughts are not helpful, because if I'm believing those thoughts, I'm going to automatically start being reserved with Kevin. I'm going to start getting annoyed with him because he's not doing what my ego wants him to do. So then I would, this is how the ego acts. It wants something, it decides it's not getting it, so it might get annoyed, it might get cold, it might say, you need to do this, la la la. So what we're doing is we're going within and we're saying, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. And what came in was, you tell Kevin, you say to Kevin everything you want him to say to you. Well, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And guess what? I didn't want to. I could feel some resistance. Now, the ego, it resists love. It doesn't want to be loving, because what its whole thought system is about, if I am loving, I might not get it back. So I noticed the resistance. It wasn't massive resistance. It was just a slight resistance. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I noticed that. So the resistance has to be given to the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, I've got resistance to doing what you're asking me to do, but I'm willing, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm in the classroom at the Holy Spirit and he's the teacher. He's teaching me. So I don't know how to get out of my egoic mind, but he does. So, okay, so the next time I spoke with Kevin, and I actually texted him straight away, and I just really said everything that I wanted to hear. So this is this teaching. There can be no greater mistake than that, for love is incapable of asking for anything. So what happens in this lifetime, or in this way that we heal, is by giving we receive. So as I gave, so as I wrote that message out and I just said, I love you, I adore you, as your true self, you're just gorgeous and you're beautiful and you're funny. And I just wrote everything out. All this love poured out of me. I started to feel better. And so this is what the special relationship and the holy relationship is about. It's about giving this love, being there. I'm there for you. I'm here for you whenever you need me. I'm just, and it's just give. So there's a couple of dynamics there. One, we've got to bring every upset. So whenever we've got a thought that this person's not doing something, it can be, they're not, these thoughts, this egoic thought system can be as subtle as, they should do the dishes more often. So if you take it to the Holy Spirit was, you need to do the dishes more often. You do them. You give your partner love. You do that. So you will get an answer from the Holy Spirit. And you just have to follow it. But what you're doing is you're correcting your misperceptions, and it will eventually lead you to this aspect of understanding fully, having this full realization that you can't get anything. I can't get anything from Kevin. I can't, he's loving towards me and it's beautiful. But if I'm waiting around, if I'm sitting around waiting for someone to say something or be a certain way towards me for me to feel good, I might feel good maybe 1% of the day, if that. If I'm waiting to get something from someone in some way to feel better. And that's the whole ego thought system is about it feels unworthy and it's trying to get something outside itself to make itself feel better. And it's really on this loop because it's seeking and it's not finding, so it's going back and forward. And that's why we eventually come to a place where we just really say, oh my goodness, nothing's working. I'm seeking and seeking and seeking, I'm just constantly seeking, and I'm not finding. And so, so the first realization is that I'm seeking outside myself, and then we have to go within. We have to go right within and say, oh my goodness, I'm connecting with the Holy Spirit. I'm connecting with God in my mind. And as we practice the lessons, we start to experience this love. And as we give this love away, that's when you really start to, this Christ love is just so beautiful and so amazing when you start to experience it. And one of the other things I'll quickly touch on is seeing Christ in everyone. I talk about that a lot. Now, however you do that, whether it's focusing on the innocence of everyone or the guiltlessness, the perfection, it's something that's beyond bodies and egos. It's focusing on the truth of everyone you're in a relationship with. So I'm just going to read a couple of these special relationship passages from A Course in Miracles. The special relationships of the world are destructive, selfish, and childlessly egocentric. Yet, if given to the Holy Spirit, these relationships can become the holiest things on earth, the miracles that point the way to the return to heaven. So the miracle in that example I gave about me, the ego being upset that it didn't get the words said to it, because it thinks if it gets these special words said that it's going to feel better. But what happens is even if those words did come out of Kevin's mouth, the ego would find something else it wouldn't be happy with, because that's the ego's nature. The ego's is a thought system of lack that we're living in. So this virus is just constantly bringing in these thoughts of lack. Oh, he didn't do this. Oh, he didn't say that. Oh, he wasn't there. He didn't help me when this. He didn't do that. So this thought system is always finding fault outside of us. And so the miracle is when you take those thoughts within and you have them shifted. So when I had the shift of perception and I asked the Holy Spirit guided me to speak the words of love to Kevin. So what we're doing is, that's not awakening, but what's happening is we're in a training. So we're being trained by the teacher in our mind. So each time we get upset, the Holy Spirit knows what's right for you in that instance. In whatever you bring to the Holy Spirit in your mind, the Holy Spirit will give you the answer for you. So that's the miracle, is when I move from fear. So the fear is those thoughts system that he's not saying the right words. That's fear and judgment. They're all the same. The judgment is the fear, because what's underlying that is I'm not getting loved, and I won't be loved, and all those thoughts are hidden in the mind, but they're there, and then they come out as thoughts of I want him to be different. I want him to say these certain things. So that's not truth. Those things are egoic, right? So we have to notice them. And as soon as we get those thoughts in any way, we have to bring them to the Holy Spirit. And the miracle is when you come to love in your mind. So I'm then loving Kevin no matter how he is. I'm not interested in how Kevin is. I'm only interested in what my mind says about Kevin. So this is what we do, is we're turning inward and saying, okay, come on, ego, what are you telling me about my partner? What are the thoughts that are coming up? What am I getting upset about? And we turn within. So every single thing we're getting upset about, we're saying, okay, there's something in my mind, that's the ego. Let's go within and let the Holy Spirit help me. So that's what he came within. And the miracle is when you shift from fear, judgment in your mind, to love. So that I had the miracle. And the miracles are undoing the ego. The miracles are the tiny undoings of each aspect of fear. So these miracles mean you have a shift in perception, and from that shift in perception you naturally extend more love. So that's how, it's a natural extension of love after you have the shift of perception. So where are we? The miracles that point the way to the return to heaven. So the miracles point the way. So each time I have a little miracle, I have a shift in perception. I am slowly, my mind, the egoic mind is losing its grip in my mind, and I'm getting back to the one mind of love. The world uses its special relationships as final weapons of exclusion and a demonstration of separateness. So when we're here in this dimension, all the relationships, the ego mind, it will hold you to being separate. The Holy Spirit transforms them into perfect lessons in forgiveness. So they're lessons. So each time that you get upset, it's a lesson in forgiveness. So treat it as like a classroom. And in awakening from the dream, you will awaken from the dream if you do this. If you're willing to reclassify your relationship as lessons. So each one is an opportunity to let perceptions be healed and errors corrected. Each one is another chance to forgive oneself by forgiving the other. And each one becomes still another invitation to the Holy Spirit and to the remembrance of God. Now that's in the introduction of ACIM. Each teaching learning situation involves a different relationship at the beginning, although the ultimate goal is always the same, to make of the relationship a holy relationship in which both can look upon the Son of God as sinless. So my lesson is to constantly, when I do see everything as sinless now, because I've awoken, it's a natural state. But when you're not seeing everything as sinless, these relationships, we're asking, they're getting us to see everything as sinless too, rather than look at sin or error in someone else, in which both can look upon the Son of God as sinless. So he would have been, whatever he was getting upset about, and I still don't know because he doesn't talk about it, and I really haven't spoken much about the things that my ego, the ego in my mind was giving its lovely commentary. That's why we have to laugh. We don't laugh at the time though, we maybe laugh a bit later. There is no one from whom a teacher of God cannot learn. So there is no one whom he cannot teach. However, from a practical point of view, he cannot meet everyone, nor can he find everyone. That's just talking about how different minds meet. No real relationship can rest on guilt or even hold one spot to mar its purity. For all relationships that guilt has touched are used, but to avoid the person and the guilt. What strange relationships you have made for this strange purpose, and you forgot that real relationships are holy and cannot be used by you at all. They are used only by the Holy Spirit, and it is that which makes them pure. You cannot enter into real relationships with any of God's sons unless you love them all and equally. Love is not special. If you single out part of the sonship for your love, you are imposing guilt on all your relationships and making them unreal. So it's a really important point there, because what happens is, even though you might seem to be in an intimate relationship with one particular mind here, what will happen is that the awakened mind, Hal's just saying that is the brutal truth. It's a beautiful truth, because what happens for me, for my mind, is I can't have, my love for Kevin is the same I have for everyone. That's why I always laugh when some people think they need to leave their families to go and live in community or live with someone else too, because what happens is you don't need to leave your special love relationships. What happens is how you love your children as such. There is aspects of that beautiful holy love, which is your, that giving part of it. So what I noticed was that part of the love that I had for my children, in that, that innocence, when you see the innocence of them and you just got that unbounded love, that's really the Christ love, and that becomes the only love you experience, and it becomes the love that you have for everyone. So it doesn't become special, it becomes what you feel for everyone, for every single aspects of Christ, because you're seeing that actually there's only this Christ love here, and you're seeing everyone as they truly are. The Holy Spirit uses special relationships which you have chosen to support the ego as learning experiences that point to truth. Under his teaching, every relationship becomes a lesson in love. So he's the teacher and we're the student. We have to get out of the way. All we have to do is be willing to bring everything that we're upset about to him. In the holy instant, where the great rays replace the body in awareness, the recognition of relationships without limits is given you. But in order to see this, it is necessary to give up every use the ego has for the body, and to accept the fact that the ego has no purpose you would share with it. So yeah, we certainly don't want the ego's version of anything. We want this Christ love, because it's eternal and changeless and limitless. I'll quickly read this, we've got a few more minutes. It is in the special relationship born of the hidden wish for special love from God that the ego's hatred triumphs. For the special relationship is the renunciation of the love of God, and the attempt to secure for the self the specialness that he denied. It is essential to the preservation of the ego that you believe this specialness is not hell but heaven. Yeah, so it tries to convince you constantly that when you get something from someone else, when you finally get that love, you'll be happy. So it's trying to convince you that when somebody finally loves you the way you want to be loved, that you'll be in heaven. And that is just so not true. The spark of holiness must be safe, however hidden it may be in every relationship. For the creator of the one relationship has left no part of it without himself. This is the only part of the relationship the Holy Spirit sees, because he knows that only this is true. And the last little paragraph, I have said repeatedly that the Holy Spirit would not deprive you of your special relationships, but would transform them. And all that is meant by that is that he will restore to them the function given them by God. So the function given them by God is this Christ love. So once all your specialness has been washed out of your mind and seen differently, so he's training us to see it differently, see how our ego is trying to hoodwink us into trying to get love from outside ourselves rather than joining with the Holy Spirit. And this love of God, as we join with God's love in our minds, we are just filled with love. That's the holy relationship, is actually being in a relationship with God. And through that love, connecting with our oneness with God, we extend love unbounded. And that's what we end up with. We are unbounded love. We are love. We lose our identification as a separate body. And through this training, we come to see that there never was a separate self. We've always been this love. And we've just seen that that whole thought system was just a virus, and it's slowly, slowly taken away by the Holy Spirit, replaced with the truth. So it's just on the hour now. So I'll just say goodbye and thank you for having me. I'm very honoured to be able to do this talk today, and I bless you. I love you and I honour you, and have a wonderful week. Thank you and goodbye.